The storm had arrived without warning, tearing across the colonial settlement of New Terra like a vengeful god. Evan Cole pressed himself against the reinforced walls of his medical station, watching through the viewport as purple lightning split the alien sky. The settlement's emergency sirens wailed their mechanical song, urging everyone to seek shelter. But Evan couldn't move. Not yet. Something massive had crashed into the medical bay's exterior wall just moments ago. The impact had shaken the entire structure, sending supplies tumbling from shelves and cracking one of the viewport panels. Now, through the driving rain and howling wind, Evan could see it. A creature unlike anything documented in the colony's xenobiology databases. It was a dragon. There was no other word for it. The being measured at least 15 meters from snout to tail, covered in scales that shimmered between deep emerald and midnight blue. Its wings, torn and battered by the storm, spread awkwardly across the muddy ground. Steam rose from its nostrils with each labored breath, visible even through the torrential downpour. The creature's eyes, intelligent golden eyes, fixed on Evan through the viewport. Those eyes held no malice, only exhaustion and pain. Every instinct screamed at Evan to stay inside, to wait for the colonial security forces, to follow protocol. These weren't Earth's skies anymore. Unknown alien species were to be treated as potential threats until proven otherwise. But Evan had spent 12 years as a field medic before joining the colonial program. He knew suffering when he saw it. The dragon's breathing had become ragged, wheezing. Even from inside, Evan could hear the congested rattle in its chest. "You're sick," Evan muttered to himself, watching the creature shiver despite its massive size. Not dangerous, just sick and scared. He grabbed his emergency medical kit and a heavy weather tarp. His hands found the industrial-sized bottle of cold and flu medication, the strong stuff they'd synthesized for colonists dealing with New Terra's harsh seasonal changes. It was technically meant for humans, but the biochemistry report suggested carbon-based life forms on this planet shared enough similarities with Earth biology that basic medications might have compatible effects. Might being the operative word. Evan sealed his environment suit and stepped into the airlock. The storm hit him like a physical blow the moment the outer door opened. Rain lashed against his visor and wind threatened to knock him off his feet, but he pushed forward one step at a time toward the collapsed dragon. The creature's head lifted slightly as Evan approached. Its golden eyes tracked his every movement, muscles tensing despite obvious weakness. Evan stopped at what he hoped was a respectful distance and raised his hands, showing he held no weapons. "Easy," he said, knowing his voice would be lost in the storm, but hoping his tone would carry meaning. "I'm here to help." The dragon made a sound, something between a growl and a cough. Mucus and steam expelled from its nostrils. Definitely respiratory distress, Evan thought. Possibly pneumonia or something analogous to it. Moving slowly, Evan approached the creature's massive head. The dragon could have snapped him in half with one bite, could have incinerated him with whatever biological mechanism produced that steam. But it didn't. It watched with those intelligent eyes as Evan draped the weather tarp over one of its damaged wings, providing some shelter from the storm. Then came the tricky part. Evan held up the bottle of cold syrup, uncapping it with exaggerated movements. He pantomimed drinking, then pointed at the dragon's mouth. The creature's eyes narrowed in what might have been confusion or suspicion. "I know it tastes awful," Evan said, raising his voice over the storm, "but it'll help with the congestion. Trust me." For a long moment, nothing happened. Rain continued to pour. Thunder rolled across the alien landscape. Then slowly the dragon opened its mouth, revealing rows of crystalline teeth and a tongue that glowed faintly with bioluminescence. Evan didn't hesitate. He poured a generous amount of the syrup into the dragon's mouth, probably enough to treat a dozen humans. The creature's face contorted in what was unmistakably disgust, and it made a hacking sound that Evan interpreted as the universal language of, "This medicine is horrible." Despite everything, Evan laughed. He stayed with the dragon through the worst of the storm, using additional tarps to provide shelter and monitoring the creature's breathing. Gradually, the wheezing became less pronounced. The dragon's shivers subsided. When the storm finally broke near dawn, the creature managed to lift its head fully, fixing Evan with those golden eyes once more. Then it spoke. The sound wasn't language as Evan understood it, more like a vibration that resonated in his chest, carrying meaning directly to his mind. A single word, Gratitude. Before Evan could respond, the dragon unfurled its wings, still damaged but functional enough, and launched itself skyward. Within moments, it had disappeared into the clearing clouds, leaving only churned mud and scattered scales as evidence it had ever been there. 5 days later, Evan was cataloging medical supplies when the settlement's alarm system activated again. But this wasn't the emergency siren. It was the contact alert. Something or someone was approaching the settlement perimeter. Evan joined the gathering crowd at the main gates. Colonial security stood ready, weapons charged but not aimed. And there, descending from the sky with impossible grace, was the dragon. But it wasn't alone. 3 more dragons followed, each carrying bundles wrapped in what looked like woven vegetation. The lead dragon, Evan recognized those golden eyes immediately, landed carefully in the settlement's central square. Its breathing was clear now, strong and steady. The creature looked healthy, vital, powerful. The dragon bowed its massive head toward Evan specifically, and again that resonance filled his chest. Gratitude, recognition, friendship. The other dragons deposited their bundles, which the settlement's xenobiologists would later identify as rare medicinal plants native to the mountain regions, valuable minerals, and foodstuffs unknown to the colonists. Gifts, payment, an offering of alliance. The lead dragon met Evan's eyes one final time, and Evan heard a sound in his mind, a name ancient and complex, but which his human consciousness could only interpret as Viel. Viel, Evan repeated aloud, placing a hand over his heart in a gesture of respect. The dragon, Viel, mirrored the gesture with one massive foreclaw, then launched skyward with its companions, leaving the colonists in stunned silence. Dr. Sarah Chen, the settlement's chief administrator, appeared at Evan's side. Care to explain why an apex predator species just gave us what appears to be several months' worth of supplies? Evan watched the dragons disappear into the distance, a smile playing at his lips. I gave one of them cold medicine during the storm. You did what? He was sick. I helped, Evan shrugged. Apparently dragons remember kindness. From that day forward, the relationship between New Terra Colony and the native dragon population, whom the settlers would come to know as the Velketh, would become the foundation of humanity's most unexpected alliance. All because one human medic decided that compassion transcended species, and a dragon named Viel remembered the man who offered medicine instead of fear during a fierce storm.